Morning, everybody. Mike's MMA Picks here with your Fight Morning quick card breakdown show brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Odds Breaker. It's Saturday morning. We've got UFC Vegas 4, Dustin Poirier against Dan Hooker. 7 out of 10 fights are expected to end inside the distance, and we'll kick things off right away. We've got women's fights, 115 pounds, Jin Frey, Invicta fighter, typically 105-pound fighter, taking on Kay Hansen. Kay Hansen, only 20 years of age. This is a striker versus grappler matchup. Kay Hansen, as I mentioned previously, 20 years old, has already tasted defeat 3 times. Grappling heavy approach. This fight's expected to go to a decision at minus 285. Frey, very competent on the feet. If this fight stays standing, she should run away with it. Kay Hansen took a boxing fight recently, and I watched that. Her stand-up needs a lot of work. Granted, she's young. She's got a long way to go. Problem is, this fight takes place in the smaller octagon. Frey is the smaller fighter. Hansen is going to be looking to grapple heavily, and you watch Frey against Ashley Cummins in that fight. She was getting pushed up against the fence, and I have concerns about Frey's takedown defense. I don't think it's going to hold up here. I see Hansen running away with this fight, though I would be a bit leery to lay my money on a fighter who is 20 years old and has already taken 3 losses. So Hansen 8,500 minus 170 favorite. On the other side of the fight, you have Frey 7,700 plus 140 underdog. 8,500. Hansen may put up what you need in DraftKings, but it's a leery fight. Next up, we head to the men's 145-pound division, where we have Youssef-Zalal taking on Jordan Griffin. Youssef-Zalal, Factory X Muay Thai fighter. Really, if you watch his last fight, he checked off a lot of the boxes. Granted, Austin Lingo, I think Austin Lingo got exposed in that fight. Fortis MMA fighter who really didn't have much time in the octagon, was knocking folks out, and Zalal just danced around him and landed takedowns and had his way. At $8,000 in DraftKings, minus 125 favorite. The Moroccan Devil, you're going to get a heck of an effort from him. 8-2 record. This is another kid, 23 years of age, still developing, taking L's on the regional scene. On the other side of the fight, you've got Jordan Griffin, 8,200 minus 105 at the betting window. Griffin, 18-7 record, is a bit of a wild man. His nickname is the Native Psycho. He's been in there with the likes of Chaz Skelly and Dan Ige. And, man, Jordan Griffin can get wrecked in there and then lock something up, and that's a wrap. Zalal, he's got to be careful here. Jordan Griffin, I was watching his TJ Brown fight and thinking to myself, man, there's going to become a point in time where you're going to want to fade Jordan Griffin, because when you're laying on your back and you're giving up positions time and time again, getting taken down, getting outworked, that's a recipe for disaster. You can't bank on these submissions. That being said, this is a very, very close matchup here. I think it's lined relatively correctly. I'm going to be leaning with Zalal here. I think he's got a higher ceiling, and the smaller cage is going to favor Griffin here, I believe. But Zalal is going to have to work hard to stay at range. Give me Zalal to come away with a unanimous decision victory. This fight's expected to go to a decision at -145. Now, third fight of the night, we head to the welterweight division where we have Jason Witt, who's coming in at 7,800 plus 225. And on the other side of the fight, you have Takashi Sato, who the odds have not fluctuated, and this is a last-minute replacement. I was a little surprised by that. Sato, -280 favorite, 8,400. Sato spent some time inside the octagon, was in there with Ben Saunders. You got to see the straight punches from Sato, lightning quick punches, has decent footwork, methodical, not the best takedown defense. Jason Witt, I watched a few of his fights. He's a fighter out of Glory MMA. So you've got the James Krause connection there. Wrestler, grinder, has been in there with a few UFC vets. I saw a chance for encounter on his resume. This kid, Witt, physically reminds me of Nate Marquardt, though does not possess the level of skills that Nate has. I was very surprised. He also took this fight on extremely short notice, made weight. I think this fight's going to play out pretty close. Witt doesn't have the blitzes that we saw from Justin James against Camacho last week. James went for broke, and that's what you got to do as a late-minute replacement. You can't bank on having a great gas tank without any type of camp, and we know Sato's been in there with a couple of UFC vets. He's, he got choked out by Bilal Muhammad, but he should be the more seasoned fighter in this spot, and I'm going to be picking Sato to win via decision here. Witt is a tough out. He's a grinder, and Sato should come out on points. Interesting though, you look at the line to go to a decision. This fight's not expected to go to a decision at -195. So perhaps the odds makers are seeing that Sato is going to fire away and put Witt out of there. So to be determined. Next up, we head to a catch weight of 150 pounds, where we have Julian Erosa, 23-8, seasoned veteran, 6,800 in DraftKings, plus 355. Underdog, 30 years of age, taking on Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson, 8,800, -505 favorite. It's a shame we lost the Kyle Nelson fight, because I thought that would have been a banger, and the way Woodson leaves his chin out there, that may have been a recipe for disaster, although he does have the great boxing and does have some solid head movement. Yeah, Mr. Woodson has shown solid takedown defense. He also is a striker by nature, had a tremendous amateur boxing record, and is also fighting out of a great camp with Glory. Erosa, you watched the Grant Dawson fight, another one of Woodson's teammates, just out-muscled, outworked, and Erosa has a very difficult time taking damage. And I'm worried about Erosa in this spot. The volume of Woodson should take its toll, and I have Woodson finishing Erosa in the second or third round by strikes. So give me Sean Woodson to come in here and get that win. Next up, we head to the heavyweight division, where we have Tanner Boser taking on Felipe-Lins. Felipe-Lins, ATT fighter, coming in with a 2.5-inch reach advantage, coming off of the recent loss to Andrei Arlovsky. 8,300 in DK for Felipe-Lins, who has a black belt but doesn't seem to use it much. He likes to stay on the feet, and he's got very quick hands. Minus 120 at the betting window for Felipe-Lins. This line has flipped a few times. Tanner Boser, 17-6-1 record. When I looked at this fight, a few things stuck out. You watch Boser's fight career. He's the natural heavyweight. He's only 28 years of age. Look at the other side of the fight. Felipe-Lins is going to be 35 years old soon. Put a beating on Josh Copeland in PFL finals and looked impressive in PFL. PFL, you watch their testing. They don't do USADA testing over there, and I'm speculating Felipe-Lins. His physique looked very different in his fight against Arlovsky, and his gas tank didn't really come into play. Arlovsky dancing around outside, and Lins looked very tentative in that spot. Lins is claiming to come in much more aggressive here, and I believe it. He's going to have a great team. Tanner Boser, 7,900 minus 110 favorite. I'm glad I watched the weigh-ins. Boser came in 15 pounds lighter than he typically does, which leads me to believe that he's going to try to be more evasive in there. Granted, this is in the smaller octagon, so that could pose problems. Felipe-Lins was a light heavyweight, and I watched him get finished twice in Bellator. That was fascinating. Tanner Boser has a knockout loss to Tim Hague, so he's not immune to being knocked out as well. This is a very interesting fight, and you look at Tanner Boser's. He didn't have a fight camp for this. He was basically working out with he self-professed that he was working out with a heavy bag, a medicine ball, some free weights, and a pull-up bar, and he was outside running. But one thing, going back to the Brian Kelleher fight, when he was fighting Hunter Azure, he had no camp either. Fighters, when they get in there, if they're seasoned veterans, they know how to fight. I watched the Cyril Gane fight against Tanner Boser, and I'll got to be honest, I was impressed with Boser's head movement, and granted, he wasn't landing at will on Gane, but he had the footwork, and that was in the larger octagon. This fight, it should be a very competitive fight. Lins has to get off if he wants to win this fight, because he could be potentially put behind the 8 ball on the scorecards. Boser is a much more active fighter, and I'm going to be picking Boser here to win a decision. I think the longer this fight goes, we're going to see Boser become a little bit more active out there. And at 28 years of age, he is not a finished product. More of a karate background, but he's shown solid takedown defense, and I like what I see in Boser in this spot. But a very closely lined fight. I kind of wish he was fighting Greene-Villante rather than Lins, because the Lins fight's a much more evenly matched fight. Next up, we head to the men's lightweight division, where we have Pena-Worthy, 15-6 record, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach, taking on Luis Pena. Luis Pena, 26 years old, 8,900 in DK, minus 240 at the betting window. Pena-Worthy, 7,300 plus 195. Pena-Worthy is only going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage here. Granted, there is 4 inches of height separating these fighters. Luis Pena, kind of a jack of all trades. We saw him on The Ultimate Fighter, fights at length. Never really, I mean, he's only 26 years of age, so he's still got a way to go. He's bounced around from camp to camp, but we haven't seen a lot from Luis Pena. We've got an intruder, folks. It's my one of my sons. What's up, Cody? High five. All right. Pena-Worthy, 15-6 record, has been KO'd on the regional scene multiple times. Has the win over Devontae Smith, where he came out and sparked Devontae Smith. That could potentially happen here. Pena-Worthy has fight-ending power. He honestly, he looks like he's throwing darts when he's in there. The way he's striking, he has these straight punches that he totally commits to. And Luis Pena has to be careful in this spot. He's got a big grappling advantage. He has the ability to peel opponents to the floor, use his length, and I suspect that will be the case here. You listen to the pre-fight interviews, and Pena-Worthy expects the ATT coached fighter to come in here with a solid game plan against him. The thing that is concerning, though, is you heard Luis Pena in his interviews state that he was planning to stand in the middle of the octagon and bang with Pena-Worthy. I think that is the wrong thing to do. Couple of other things. Pena-Worthy, he's taken a couple of losses early in his career at lightweight, but he spent 11 out of 21 of his fights took place at the featherweight division. Now he's spent the past few fights at lightweight. This fight does take place at lightweight. I don't see this fight going the distance. Pena-Worthy, this fight is in the smaller octagon. I think we're going to see Luis Pena come out here, look to grapple, and land the takedowns, make Pena-Worthy work, and lock up a submission late in the fight. I don't think you can bank on Pena possessing fight-ending power, because that isn't typically how he ends things. Pena's never been finished in his career. He's got to be careful in the spot, because Pena-Worthy is a very dangerous fighter. He's a kill or be killed fighter, and we've seen his lights completely shut off a number of times. So give me Luis Pena to win this fight. I'm going to say by submission. Next up, we've got heavyweights. We've got the return of Greene-Villante. Greene-Villante, 7,600 plus 195 underdog. Maurice Greene on the other side of the fight, 8,600 minus 240 favorite. Maurice Greene, this fight, I'll be honest, if Villante was fighting anybody else, it would almost be a max opportunity on his opponent. Because by the looks of things on the scale, he's checking out. Moved up to heavyweight, ballooned up. I tweeted out pictures of the dramatic transformation that's taken place in only 16 months. Folks are on quarantine, but a lot of people I know don't let themselves go like that. Villante, though, has power. He's got solid boxing. He's one tough dude. He will bite down on his mouthpiece and will fight for your money. Problem is, it looks like he didn't come in shape for this fight. 17-11 record. Maurice Greene, the problem is I don't have a lot of confidence in Maurice Greene and his ability to execute a game plan. He's not very athletic, doesn't have great takedowns. Villante has a very solid base, 83% takedown defense for Villante. If this is a one-round fight, I would be leaning towards Villante to pull this off, even despite the horrific shape that he's in. The longer the fight goes, the output should wane for Villante, and Maurice Greene should run away and take this fight. So I'm going to be picking Maurice Greene in this spot, but I don't have a lot of faith in his abilities. Just hasn't proved it. Next up, we head to the main card where we have a really interesting matchup between Brendan Allen and Allen-Daukaus. Allen-Daukaus, 9-0 record, 7,000 in DraftKings, plus 240 underdog. We saw him on the Contender Series, but I've watched a lot of Daukaus' fights on the regional scene also, and this kid is still developing. That's I feel comfortable saying that. Only 27 years old, has fought at heavyweight before. Brendan Allen, 14-3 record. He's the much more developed fighter at 24 years of age, which is hard to believe. Brendan Allen, only 24 years old. Reminds me of Antonio Carlos Jr. in his body type. He's massive for the middleweight division. 9,200 in DK, minus 310 favorite. This fight, both fighters have very similar reach. Both fighters are submission specialists, and they both bring high-level jiu-jitsu to the table. But I like what I saw in Allen-Daukaus' Contender Series fight in his stand-up. Granted, it was against a diminutive opponent. This fight, he's fighting Brendan Allen, who's huge, someone who's going to be the same size as him, stronger than him, is not going to let opportunities slip away. I see Brendan Allen locking up a submission in this spot in the first couple of rounds. I don't expect this fight to go to a decision right now. Fight does not go to a decision. It's at minus 275. Daukaus, I think he needs more time to to develop. You watch his fight against Goebel on the regional scene. I tweeted it out yesterday. He was getting mauled, and this was 2 years ago, by a fighter that's now, I believe, 6-8 overall. And I'll be picking Allen to win in this spot. Next up, we have Mickey Gall taking on Mike Perry. This is the co-main event of the evening. Only 10 fights on this card, so trying to burn through this breakdown relatively quickly. Mickey Gall coming in with a 6-2 record. Mike Perry 13-6, minus 315 at the betting window for Mike Perry. $9,000 at DraftKings. 7,200 for Mickey Gall, plus 245 at the betting window. This fight, this is a really, you talk about contrasts in styles. You've got Mickey Gall with the jiu-jitsu, and then you got Mike Perry, who's a wild man. But Mike Perry has been in there with, he fought at Submission Underground earlier in the year and won against Ali Aquinta. Ali Aquinta's 155er. But when he's been in the octagon, he isn't a fish out of water when he's trying to stop takedowns. And he has, I mean, we know what kind of power Mike Perry has. Mickey Gall, I have a lot of concerns about his abilities to take punches. And Gall's going to have to come out here and totally commit to the takedown. I see Gall's path to victory being a submission. Mike Perry, bit of a head case, and it's concerning to me what he's done with his life outside of the octagon, as far as not retaining coaches, etc. That's it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Why would you do that? That this is your livelihood. I question his decision making, but in this spot, I will be picking Mike Perry to win and to win by finish. I think this fight should end in finish, and I'm going to be picking Mike Perry to win via brutal knockout. Problem is, Mickey Gall is live here early in the fight, so if you are playing Mike Perry straight, I would take a look at the prop for Mickey Gall to win via submission. Next up, we head to the main event of the evening, where we have Dan Hooker, 20-8 record, 7,500 in DraftKings, plus 190 underdog, taking on Dustin Poirier, 8,700, minus 230 right now at the betting window, 31 years of age for Poirier. This fight, I wish this fight was taking place in the larger octagon, because it would give each fighter an opportunity to work their magic. In this spot, you have both of these guys are going to be forced to, like Dustin Poirier said in his interview, it's going to be a blender in there, and there's going to be no way for these guys to avoid each other. Hooker, one thing I really like about him is his evasiveness and the way he's able to keep his head out of striking range. I wouldn't be surprised if Poirier comes in here and starts to try to work the body early. He's got to watch out for those knees of Hooker, though. Hooker is probably going to try to chop the legs of Dustin Poirier as well. I was at Jim Miller's fight against Dustin Poirier a few years ago, and we saw it in the Gaethje fight also, but in the Miller fight, Poirier almost got his legs chopped off in that bout. He almost didn't finish that fight. And Hooker, the problem and the reason I see this fight finishing is because Hooker, if he invests in these leg kicks, he's going to be met with a counter strike by Poirier, a straight left, and you don't want to mess around and take punches from Poirier. He comes out completely dialed in. You watch the Eddie Alvarez fight. You watch throughout history, the Holloway fight. There have been so many fights. This is one guy, he takes things very, very seriously. I've never underestimated Dan Hooker. He's a tremendous fighter. I really enjoyed his performance against Felder out on the other side of the globe. Very, very dangerous fighter. The thing is, though, in this, I would actually go out on a limb and favor Hooker to win in the larger octagon. But this environment, I think it really lends to Dustin Poirier's game. He also, we haven't talked about it, but he does have a solid ground game as well. We don't get to see it that often. So he's got a couple of paths to victory here. Hooker's going to have to stay busy, and he's going to have to stay evasive. And I just don't think he's going to be able to do that in the small confines of the UFC Apex. So give me Dustin Poirier to win, and to win by finish. Should be a great fight. One thing I didn't mention, though, is Dustin Poirier. He does get clocked, and I don't have 100% faith in his chin. And the way Hooker throws these strikes, he's like a sharpshooter out there, and he will make you pay. So I'm not underestimating either fighter. I'm going to be picking Poirier to win here, but I don't see this fight going to a decision. And that's it, folks. We've got a great card today, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You can follow me on Twitter at MikesMMAPicks. If you're interested in purchasing any of my plays, they're at MMA Oddsbreaker Premium. You can also follow me on BetMMA.tips, also on CapperTech. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today, and go get what's yours, my friends. Awesome opportunities ahead, and I will see you at Fight Island on July 11th. We're going to get it, folks. One fight at a time. Let's go!